I actually was not doing retail sales. I was selling to dealers overseas. And so the way I actually started was by contacting dealers overseas. And I would go to like magazine stores in New York and Chicago where they had these overseas magazines. And I would get the magazines, come home, and fax these dealers overseas what I had. And that's how I built a business. And then I would go to Europe. I went to Japan like in the early 90s, and I went to Holland and Germany and France, and I went to a lot of these trade shows and just met people and introduced myself.
And you're just showing pictures of what you got, basically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I remember in like 91 or 92 going to Japan, and I actually hired a Japanese interpreter and took me around Japan, went to the vintage car dealers in Japan. You know, back in the late 80s, early 90s, Japan was just rocking with their economy. They were spending money buying everything. So the classic car industry in Japan was rocking back then. So I went to Japan, went to a bunch of vintage car dealers in Japan, introduced myself, and I was just starting out. I had nothing. But I said, listen, what are you looking for? I'll find it and ship it. So I remember, these guys showing me these little Japanese sports cars that American servicemen had brought from Japan to the U.S., and they were never officially sold in America, but there was lots of them here. I came home from Japan, and for a year and a half, I scoured up all these little Japanese Hondas and Toyotas, these cute little sports cars, and made enough money to support myself for 2 or 3 years just doing that one thing.